In the northwest corner of Namibia, right along the border with Angola, is one of the most unique scenic and tribal regions in all of Africa. You'll find the beautiful Epupa Falls here on the Kunene River, forming the border between Namibia and Angola. This is one of Africa's most fascinating tribal regions, with multiple ancient tribes that are some of the most colorful in the world. Amongst these are the Herero women, who wear large Victorian-style petticoat dresses and horn-shaped headgear. This fashion choice is in part a holdover from seeing the formal dress styles of German missionaries and colonialists who came to Namibia in the early 1900s. German colonialists brought the local women to work with them in their homes, but would not allow them to go topless or scantily clad, so they dressed them in formal dresses. To this day, the wearing of these formal colonial dresses is a sign that a Herero woman is traditional and well-raised. But the most fascinating of the tribes in this region are the astonishing Himba people, who are famous for rubbing their bodies with a mixture of butter, animal fat, and ochre as protection from the sun. Even more remarkable are the women's hairstyles, which indicate age and social status. Look at the amazing braided hair extensions worn by the women and held together by goat hair, butter, and mud. It takes days and days of hard work in the small Himba villages for the women to prepare their hair, and then each style represents a completely different social status. Young girls will wear 2 braided plaits of hair to show that they have not yet reached puberty. Married women and those with children will begin to adapt the elaborate hairstyles of adulthood. After a year of marriage or following the birth of their first child, many women add an elaborate animal skin headdress to their hairstyle. Outside of the major city of Opuwo, Himba tribal villages are extremely basic. The people still forage in existence from the harsh, barren land and live in small, circular huts made of branches, mud, and cow dung. A central paddock houses the sheep and goats they herd and milk for a living. Between 30,000 and 50,000 Himba live in small villages just like this one, all across northern Namibia. Tourists are welcomed at most villages, but you will be expected to pay the Himba for photos and video clips you may take, a small price to experience this most exotic and remote place. Our next stop is considered the prime attraction in all of Namibia, and one that every visitor must see. You shouldn't miss it either. The vast, dusty, and fascinating Etosha National Park. This is an 8,000 square mile park and is a drive-yourself destination. It takes a good 2 to 3 days to cross it in your own car. The story of Atosha is its heat and dryness. the average year-round temperature is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's astonishing anything can live in these dry, inhospitable conditions. The park is centered around a huge dry saline lake called the Etosha Pan, in which there's barely even a hint of shade for the dry, parched animals. Yet contrary to what you might think, the hot season of September through December is the ideal time to visit. That's because the animals are extremely dehydrated and will congregate at Etosha's 40 man-made and natural watering holes for easy viewing. This is a sight not to be missed. The secret is to find a good watering hole, switch off the engine, and wait for something to happen. Eventually, all the creatures in the park will arrive seeking water, each taking turns according to nature's pecking order to access this precious and scarce commodity. Many of the lodges, which are about a day's drive between, have nighttime spotlit viewing areas around the watering holes where you can capture some amazing photos at sunset and dusk. Under the light of the full moon, you can observe the animals as they enjoy the cool evening temperature. The government lodges in the park are comfortable, but advance bookings are absolutely necessary. Once you're outside the gates of the lodge, however, you are restricted to your vehicle. It is dangerous, even deadly, to leave the safety of your car. Here's the rare white rhino in full form, a lucky find in the vast park. And the dangerous puff adder snake, whose venom is one of the most deadly in the world. The animals in Atosha are used to seeing people passing and stopping in cars, and barely react at all. We filmed these lions beside the road from just a few feet away from our car window. While they look cute, you should never, under any circumstances, throw food out of your car or try to feed the animals. As soon as they associate food with people and vehicles, you'll never be safe again, as you can see from these lions who've had to be quarantined because they've attacked people in the past for food. And that begs the question, where does one use the bathroom in Etosha Park? Well, we were tempted to stop at a small culvert which offered the only privacy for about 50 miles in any direction, only to discover moments later that it was very much protected by a mama lion whose small cubs were being raised in that little drainage ditch. Had we left our car to use the bathroom, odds are we would surely have been attacked. Fortunately, there are rest stops along the 3-day driving route through the park. However, you must get out and open a gate and effectively put yourself behind barbed wire to use the restrooms. At these remote rest stops, you might want to get out and admire the incredible nests of the sociable weaver bird. These tiny birds build the largest nests in the world, weighing up to several tons. They look a little bit like large haystacks in the trees. They're actually highly complex colonies, the most advanced structures built by birds anywhere on Earth. But most amazing is the fact that these little birds invite in predators like owls, falcons, and eagles, who often nest here right alongside the weavers without killing them, knowing that the weavers are great hosts, the best innkeepers in the desert. And these large predators protect the weavers from snakes, so the whole arrangement works out rather well and is an amazing example of cooperation and symbiosis in the animal kingdom. For me, the story of Etosha was its amazing dryness, almost oppressive heat, and the desperate seeking of the animals for water. Join me now as we follow several elephants on a multiple-day journey to find that precious commodity. Trying to stay cool, the elephants blow the dusty saline sand all over themselves, inadvertently making themselves proverbial white elephants. It was time to head to the Atlantic coast of Namibia, the world-famous Skeleton Coast, one of the most mythical and surreal places you can find on the planet. This coast is famous for its rugged landscapes, including sand dunes which plunge directly into the sea, a phenomenon seen almost nowhere else on Earth. Fog has been such a hazard here that early Portuguese sailors referred to it as the Gates of Hell. The 750-mile-long coastline is still littered with the carcasses of ships both modern and ancient. There are the skeletons of others here too, mariners and adventurers who tried to brave this hostile landscape at the edge of the Namibian desert, never to be heard from again. The first Westerners to see this coast were whalers and seal hunters, who left behind the first skeletons in their wake. Today, the occasional whale still beaches itself here for unknown reasons. Ocean life can be abundant along the coast. Over 200,000 fur seals live in the Cape Cross seal colony, the world's largest breeding colony of these noisy and ripe-smelling fur seals. A virtual Manhattan for seals. The Cape Cross breeding colony maintains a controversial policy of culling these creatures to keep population and fish stocks in balance. Everything seems strange in Namibia. Even the summer homes and beach houses along the Skeleton Coast resemble something from a post-apocalyptic world. The most important city by far along the Skeleton Coast is Swakopmund, a comfortable, clean, and safe place to spend the night, refuel the car, and have a delicious meal. Namibian cities are always pleasant surprises, especially if you've been spending some time roughing it. Here at the edge of the vast Namib Desert, you can enjoy a luxury apartment for rent and a gourmet meal at a fraction of the cost at home. The view from your balcony will blow your mind. What most people want to do when they arrive here is to explore the vast sand dunes that stretch for hundreds of miles, literally from the edge of town. You'll need to hire a car and driver to do this, as the access to this region is limited to licensed guides with a lot of experience driving on sand. Along the way, you'll pass Swakopmund's sister city, Walvis Bay, and its vast and mysterious blood-red salt fields. The Walvis Bay salt holdings are the largest producer of salt in sub-Saharan Africa, and quite a sight to see on your way to the dunes. You'll be traveling at breakneck speeds across smooth orange sand and plunging straight over soft cliffs several hundred feet high. You'll drive down a purple beach covered with garnets and gemstones and meet the tiny creatures that call this fog-swept coastline home. I guarantee you, this is bound to be one of those experiences in your life that gets bookmarked as the very, very best. What can I say about this place? There's some locations so dreamlike and mystical, you simply have to put yourself there and let the landscape speak for itself. I have no more words, just impressions. Beyond the Skeleton Coast lie massive sand dunes, amongst the highest in the world, and 20,000 square miles of unforgettable desert, a region known as Sossusvlei. One of the granddaddies of all the dunes is the massive 500-foot-high Dune 45, comprised of 5 million years of accumulating sand. But your most important hiking destination in Sossusvlei will be the remote Deadvlei region, known in English as the Dead Trees. Although challenging, you must try to get here at dawn, when the rising sun casts its shadows around the basin of ancient trees and no one is around. "700 years ago, this dry clay valley had a thriving community of camelthorn trees. But when the watercourse changed, the trees died and burned in the hot sun. They're not technically petrified, but they are now black because the intense sun has scorched them, leaving the wood so dry it will not decay. Surrounded by the highest sand dunes in the world, the Dead Trees and Sossusvlei are one of Namibia's chief travel destinations. Contrary to what may appear as a lifeless region, inland from the coast you'll find abundant wildlife in the Namib Desert. Wild horses run across sun-baked landscapes. Zebras seem entirely out of place strolling in the sand. Ostriches and their families roam the desert, and the lone ostrich spotted in the middle of this vast place seals its fate as Namibia's loneliest animal. But my favorite animal in the Namib Desert is the graceful and elegant oryx with its long and pointed antlers. In some way, seeing them braving these sandy deserts made me think I was seeing unicorns at play, migrating across landscapes of my dreams. And after all, isn't it what I was doing? Migrating across these deserts, seeking my own place of refuge? I know many of you are probably wondering how you survive out here in this barren wilderness with only the vast sand desert. You'll be relieved to know that there are well-placed rest stops along the way. In the exact middle of nowhere is the little outpost of Solitaire, Namibia, a welcome sight for people with empty gas tanks, dry mouths, and dusty vehicles. Solitaire is much more than just a gas station. Thanks to a Scottish adventurer named Moose McGregor, this little outpost has become the most famous bakery in Africa. In the 1990s, Moose settled here and began baking his famous German apple pie based on an old family recipe. The apple pie was so good it caused a sensation, and although Moose passed away in 2014, his apple pie lives on as a strange and wonderful treat in the most remote spot of the Namib Desert. Also here in the middle of the desert, you'll find a sign marking the crossing of the Tropic of Capricorn, a great place to stop for an Instagram selfie. I don't want to mislead you and make you think accommodation in Namibia is basic and primitive. It's far from it. There are beautiful luxury hotels at highly affordable prices, about a day's drive from one another. This one had open-air rooms in the turrets of a castle for those that love to stargaze in the desert, with bed and bath under the heavens. Many have 5-course dinners, full bars, massage rooms, and pools. Every little thing is looked after with care. Breakfast is included, and the Namibian staffs at these private lodges are always gracious and friendly. And then there's the added bonus of wildlife, often right outside your room. The only warning is book ahead, because accommodation in this country fills up quickly, and it can be a very long drive to the next outpost. It is a very long drive to get to the last destination in Namibia, but for sure worth it for serious photographers and adventurers. Far out in the desert is the abandoned ghost town of Colemans Cup. Your first impression may be, why would anyone want to live out here so far from civilization? And why would they build elegant homes only to abandon them to the elements? In 1908, diamonds were discovered here by a railway worker clearing the tracks of sand. According to legend, the diamonds were so plentiful you could pick them up off the desert floor as they glinted in the moonlight. By 1912, a town had sprung up, producing 1 million carats a year, almost 15% of the world's diamond production. Colemans Cup became a well of luxury in the middle of the desert. Opera stars were brought from Europe to perform for wealthy German colonialists who built luxury homes and a thriving town. But by the mid-1950s, the diamonds were tapped out. Townspeople left in droves, abandoning homes and possessions. By 1956, the town was completely empty and left to the blowing sand and dust. Slowly, sand has filled the brightly painted rooms, some almost up to the second story. It's an eerie place where you can almost feel the spirits of the wealthy German diamond miners still celebrating their evaporated wealth. It's expected that soon the town will fully decay and vanish into the desert. Until then, the visitor is left to ponder the shifting sands of time and an abandoned world of the past disappearing before our very eyes. From Namibia, it's just a 90-minute flight to one of the great wonders of the world, Victoria Falls, on the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe. Here, the mighty Zambezi River thunders 500 feet over a cliff in one of the greatest displays of nature in all of Africa. If you can afford it, you'll want to stay at the elegant Victoria Falls Hotel on the Zimbabwe side of the falls. If you can't afford to stay at this hotel, which is sometimes occupied by Britain's royal family, you should steal a little free time on the lawns and gardens, the way some of the lodge's non-paying residents like to do. The hotel overlooks the mist of the falls in the distance, as well as the historic Victoria Falls Railway Bridge, still crossed by old steam trains, which stop right at the door of the lodge at all times of day and night. It's doubtful Livingston would have imagined the ways his bridge would be used today. Especially when you consider that the Zambezi River below is full of crocodiles, just waiting for a daily snack. Sharon and I had noticed there was a company here offering cage dives with Zambezi River crocodiles, something most people would pass by. But we're not most people. We had to give it a try. You're lowered into the crocodile tank in a steel cage, breathing through scuba apparatus to come face to face with a whole lot of teeth and some very hungry reptiles. Feed them their favorite meal, fish on a stick, and hope for the best. And when they start climbing on top of the cage, don't panic. Just offer up your warmest handshake. And of course, don't miss the magnificent Victoria Falls themselves, with rainbows and mist galore. Twice the height and width of Niagara Falls, it's not the highest or the widest, but it's the largest waterfall based on width in the world. Standing there admiring it, I noticed a pool on the Zambia side, right on the edge of the falls, and unlike many of you, I wanted to stand right there. I'm thrilled by heights, and it turns out you can do this by swimming down the Zambezi River on the Zambia side with a guide who will take you right to the edge of the falls. The water is warm, but the thought of being swept over the falls kept us shivering a little bit. This was it, the moment of truth. With tiny fish biting my feet, I went right to the edge of the abyss.
Give it a try, man.
You gotta do this, it's well worth it. You gotta do it, it's well worth it.
And look at the rainbows.
It's amazing.
And thus ended our trip to Southwest Africa, a region overflowing with wonder. It's still undiscovered, but if you want to beat out the herds that are soon to arrive, you'd better buy your tickets soon. Its magic is just waiting to be discovered.